Alright, fuckers, welcome back. Finally, I'm doing reference drawing again, i.e., building a visual library. I'm legally blind. I also really like the, the title for this series. But yeah, this is where I just practice um, whatever I want to add to my visual library. Right now, the main focus is guns, because again, Peter Han says, whatever you're interested in, really just get obsessed with that. Antonio has mentioned that a couple of times. Kim Jong-il that's how he learned, right? He would say he would just obsessively draw something until he understood it better, right? I did that with the whole crazy scooters things, much to my my viewers' avail of having to deal with that spam, and I got marginally better at the end, so that's always nice. But now I'm gonna be doing guns, or continuing on with guns, and I actually got my friend to tell me, because he's in the army, right? And I told him like, okay, like I'm doing shit for imagination, but he gave me some critiques on how the gun is formed and all that stuff in terms of my ratios, and I'm like, all right, give me two guns that I can just drill that are different, right? I think basing uh the drawing off of realism, like being able to draw a gun realistically, like a real gun, and then being able to make uh essentially edits off of that is more important. It's what I started to do here, right? When I just had that random gun on Pinterest, but now he's giving me actual guns, right? So the first is the C22 and the other one is the 357 Magnum. So I'm going to focus on the C22. So before we begin drawing this gun from reference and breaking it down to its simplest parts, let's actually reiterate to myself. Oh, by the way, like, subscribe, all that bullshit, and more importantly, draw along. Don't just listen or watch my videos. Draw along, right? Actually practice things that are difficult and keep me on the background for retention purposes. Thank you very much. I need the watch hours. So with that being said, let's actually get to drawing, because apparently I tend to ramble. I don't know what that means, but apparently I do. Right, so what do I know about guns right now, or gun-like shapes? I know there is a cylinder, right? And I know sometimes maybe there's a larger cylinder attached to it or behind it. That's basically what I know right now. You know, that's about it for the top of the gun. Right. At a certain point, there may be something like this, right? Also attached to the gun. What this is, I have no idea. I've seen it a little bit, right? And that's what sort of is also, I guess, gun-like in a sense. And guns are going to be great for me getting better at my line quality. And then there's something like this, right? Where there's something like yeah, something like this. Something like that. Right, and then this is where we have, I guess, the trigger. And guns aren't this thick. That's another thing that I'm realizing the more I look at the actual references that he's given me. But that's like the trigger area of sorts. Right, something like that. Something like that. Vaguely, I understand roughly now. These are gun-like things that occur, right? Sometimes maybe even we'll have something like this, right? Because I've looked at a lot of concept art type guns as well, which aren't, like, mind you, they're not actually realistic in any sense, but they're based off of realism. So I've seen stuff like this, and again, just from practicing this gun reference thing for a couple hours, I've already gotten a better understanding of gun-like things, right? Maybe this is a double barrel. What that means, I have no fucking idea whatsoever. But I now know that maybe this is something that can exist. IRL, as they say. Right? I don't know. Maybe this is just like a normal, again, jutting out. And then sometimes there's something like this. I'm basing this all off my knowledge of shapes, not actually of the gun itself, right? So I actually do want to study the parts of the gun as well, which will come with time. Right now, I'm still going to focus on shapes, right? But that's mainly, I guess, something gun-like, right? And again, I'm always thinking about the grid. I'm thinking about the perspective at all times, to the best of my ability, right? We can have something like this, again, right? And what the hell? Yeah, it would be like this, right? The trigger or whatever. And maybe, I don't know. And because this is the perspective, maybe it's going down this way, right? Because it is always slightly angled like so. You can probably tell that my perspective with the gun has already gotten better, even though I haven't drawn it. I actually draw this a little bit on my off time, so I'll be honest, there's probably like an extra hour, hour and a half of gun drawing that I've done in the past month. Maybe 2 hours. I want to be transparent about the time I put into this, right? But the thing is, the visual library series, the guns that I've drawn, that was the bulk of my understanding so far, right? And that shit is what really helped. But yeah, this is like my general knowledge of gun-like shapes, right? Again, the trigger is something like this, right? You know, because if I guess if I were to do it perspective wise, you know, if we were to encompass this in a square plane, if I explain this to myself, thus I get better at explaining to you, and I learn as well, right? Which is why I'm doing this. But it's something like this, right? Where we're basically curving along the edge over here, we're curving along the edge over here, right? That's the plane we're keeping in mind. And then this is, again, the trigger is usually seemingly something like that, right? The curve could have been better here, but wait, I fucked that up. Should have been like this. And then this goes outward, yeah. But yeah, it's something like this. No, not perfect by any measure, and I probably made a horrible example here because I made a mistake. But that's my understanding, right? Even for the trigger, it's probably something like this, right? This sort of curved. If honestly, this is just a bent box, right? This is literally just a bent box. But you know, when you add everything around it, that's when it starts to, I guess, look more gun-like, which again are just bent boxes, right? But this is just what I understand generally of these shapes thus far. But now we're going to improve it, right? Again, and I'm just trying to fill up space here as well, right? The more I reinforce this to myself, the better it probably will be. What I see from these examples now is the fact that, and I'm just, again, I'm not exactly going off what I see, but what I see now is like, okay, it's not really exactly like that. Maybe it's more like this, right? Maybe the gun's actually more like this, right? If I just go off the basic shapes that I see here, you know, of the C22, yeah, of the C22 gun, right? Then maybe it's actually more like this, right? But this seems to be the gun-like shape language, you know? And then obviously over here, now this is where it's like, okay, now we have maybe something where this actually curved a bit outward, and then we bring it inward, and this is where the trigger exists, seems like, and it's a lot thinner, right? It's a lot thinner. So yeah, it's pretty cool. This is just like some general thing I'm doing to explain to myself how the gun could look, right? But it's probably best that I just take a break right now, and then or probably let me draw just a bit more here so we can get the general understanding of the shape down, and this way I can practice my perspective as well. So it could literally be just seemingly the gun could just be something like this, right? If we're going off the top part. Something like that. Probably hard to see there, but I think something like this, from what I can tell. Wait, that's actually a bit of the incorrect perspective. But this is just like an offshoot that I'm doing to understand this a bit better. Right, this is way too short, obviously. Like this part right here. And I didn't angle it properly, but it seems like, just from what I can tell of the C22, that it follows more of a blocky design language. And then the Magnum that my friend gave me, because he's like, you want to have different types of guns, and I know you want to draw different types of guns. That he gave me the Magnum. That's the one that has essentially the cylinder. I guess I'll speak from an artist perspective, right? That's the one that has this right at the side with the 6 bullets. So that's good. These are 2 guns I can really grind. So I'm gonna rest my brain. I encourage you to do the same as well if you have been drawing along. If not, please draw along, right? you don't want to see me when I'm angry. Fuck, I make that joke all the time. Actually, no, this is the 2nd time, which is too much, too many, as they say. Comedy comes in trees, only if it's funny. But anyways, let me rest my brain. Oh. It does go to show how much better my knowledge and my perspective has gotten since the last time I did this, though, because this was done with extreme concentration, this was done with half-ass concentration, and already the perspective is worse. Like, the perspective is better here than it is here, which is good. That means I am growing, right, in girth as well as size. Although I'm not sure which one's more important. I'll have to double check on that. But let's see. Let's figure out the parts for this gun-like shape. Like, let's try to break it down, and we're gonna break it down in different perspectives. So I'm gonna do my best to break down this. Yeah, I want to break down the C22 into literally 2 parts, because that's how we build our perspective knowledge, right? So let's see. We could do something like it's like this, right? So we can just make that part the top part of a cylinder, right? Have it go down, and then it cuts across. This is the top part I'm drawing, by the way. And then we actually have the little cylinder in here, right? And what do we have here? We have a manipulated box, which is tapering backwards. Is it tapering backwards? It is tapering backwards. Right, so it's tapering a little bit backwards, as well as expanding slightly outward. While retaining, obviously, this plain edge. Perhaps that could have been a bit further out. There you go. Okay. And then, let's say, we need to create units, right? So let's say the top is 1x. So roughly what I'm about to draw will be half x, or a bit less than half x, right? So it'll be something like, it'll be around 5 times the distance of this. So proportion's very important, of course. So something like that. Actually, no, that's way too long. But thankfully, and that means this had to be smaller, but thankfully we can acknowledge that, right? And let's bring this out. It's roughly around this long. Let's say this front part. And then it cuts out, continues onward, right? And this is where we have another little cutout like that, which is, again, a bit of a, how would you explain it? If this is the plane that we're looking at, what's happening right there is something like this. I obviously fucked up the perspective, but that's okay, because actually, is it okay? Am I just shit at art? Possibly. Okay, and then this thing closes back around. For the time being, that's just how we're gonna explain it to ourselves. But in between, there is a box, which simply goes downwards. Now, what that box represents, I don't know currently. We'll have to learn that, right? Learning that is part of it. But then we go outward again, little less long than this. Little less long? Less, what the fuck? What is this explanation? Smaller in length, Jesus Christ. Smaller in length than the first half that we've drawn here. And there's another box that is this one has a more flat edge, it seems. No, let's keep it relatively curved for the time being. But this is an interesting shape because it's going around like so, right? And then it tapers upwards, comes down into a normal cutout like so, a part of the plane, and then comes back down. I kind of fucked it up a little, but when do I not fuck things up? Let's think about that. Let's try to answer that first. When do I not fuck it up? If anybody can give me a proper response, I will give you. What can I even give as someone who has literally nothing to offer in terms of value? I guess I'll give you recognition in the form of one of those fucking those YouTube hearts? Yeah, that's what you're getting. That's all you get from me. But there you go. And it's interesting. It actually does get more. So this actually does become more of a square plane. Yeah, it's like that. So that go downwards, and then this, I guess, turns into that. So that's the top half, roughly. Perhaps I didn't make it long enough, I think. This might be a bit too long, but that's just what I see. Right? There's actually a lot of jutting out going on around here now that I see this part more, but that's something we can do afterwards. And by afterwards, I mean literally, like after I get the rest of the gun going down. This guns, if you want to be really precise with them, and if I want to improve my spatial reasoning, I need to get used to seeing the main thing that really I find is going to help improve my spatial reasoning is any plane that I see, right, whether it's this way or whether it's this way, is to be able to calculate essentially the trajectory of a line from any point. So let's say, for example, this thing over here actually goes outward like so, right? So what that means is I need to be able to see this and make that line, but obviously from here, right? But still use this plane, use this perspective as a reference, which is why I'm always trying to visualize this, and the goal is to visualize whichever perspective this is using this method, right? These three axes, whatever, and then just calculating. So if I know in my mind, okay, this is my perspective and there's an angle going like this, I got to be able to calculate this in my mind, right? Like that's where realism really comes into play. That's when we're actually breaking out of simple forms in their essence, right? I'm also drawing this in a different perspective than the given reference, which is also really good for practicing your spatial reasoning, right? Sori Kim also mentions that's really helpful. So, okay, so now we got this. Now we're gonna do the bottom half, right? And this thing juts in a little bit, then juts out, then juts in again. I'm doing it the simple way because it's a lot more curved than that. Wait. Okay. There you go, something like that. And there's another ellipse here. Again, we got to keep trying our best to see the lines, right? See the invisible grid. Okay, and then let's see. We have this comes up to around this part, so it's good even. That's good. Like there's a lot of symmetry involved in this. design, which is helpful. Something like this, I guess. And same thing on the other side. It's kind of just connecting. Right. And then we have, oh, right next to this, we have another ellipse. Why? I don't know what the fuck that does, but we have it. Okay, and this is where things get nice and a bit complicated, because now we have the trigger. And the height of the trigger, at least the handle part, right? Like where, this part right here. The height of, what, this, right? Like this, the height of this, this is, and this is just me thinking out loud, by the way. Feel free to draw along. Feel free to search up the C22 for yourself, right? There's one that's the left view. The gun I'm looking at for the C22 is more in, it's more like in this perspective, but not as drastic, right? And yeah, that's the one I'm using. It's a beige-ish gun, at least in the reference that I have, right? And I'm just thinking out loud. The more I think out loud and I'm able to acknowledge what I'm drawing, I think the more helpful it will be, right? So it's cut in a bit inward because the trigger is obviously much thinner. So it's cut in a bit inward, and then it's coming, let's see, it's roughly about 2/3 of this height. So you can cut in and then do something like this, right? And again, following the perspective, we bring it back like so. Maybe I didn't cut it in as well as I should have, right? And I guess it actually has a bit of a jut out right there. But now, because this is difficult, the spatial reasoning part at least, I have to do something like this. It curves all the way around, and where does it stop? It stops, oh, I forgot to add something here which will help be a marker of sorts, but it stops around, let's see, there's just like a pill shape here. So it stops around at, well, for this we can say it stops right here, right? Adjacent roughly, maybe a bit less to that shape. Actually right around there. And we also have to bring it back, right? So it comes back, and there's much more curve here, and it's coming outward, of course, but there's much more curve. Something like this. This isn't super accurate, obviously. Right now I'm just trying to fucking voice crack, Jesus. I'm just trying to understand relations between these parts, right? This is relatively thin, so it's again following the perspective, but it also curves back like so. And this is obviously where we have this, right? How big is the handle? It is roughly, I'm just measuring with my other hand. I'm going like this in the reference, right? Like if this is the top part, this is the bottom part, right? That's just what I'm doing. It's just my way of thinking out loud right now. This doesn't have to be the fucking penultimate way of drawing from reference and building a visual library, but this is just something I'm doing because it's worked thus far, right? Find what works for you, but at the end of it, it all comes down to understanding form and breaking it down into simple shapes, right? If parts of my process is helpful, it's helpful. If parts of my process is fucking useless, then you don't have to do it that way. It's as simple as that. It's like how I learn a lot from watching people like Broken Draw, Kim Jung-gi, Peter Han, Karl Kopinski. I learn a lot by their process, but there's a lot of things I do or I find in their process that I'm like, okay, I don't see the need to do it that way right now, or maybe even forever, right? There's just, everybody learns differently. Kim Jung-gi even explains his gun, how he draws them differently. There's a very subtle curve here, so it's, oh wait, I fucked that up. It's supposed to be more like, yeah, there you go. So ignore that line. That was a complete fuck up on my end. And then we have curve, right? And that actually leads into this, which this curves outwards, kind of like a little nub, and then it curves all the way back in. and then yeah, it's curved all the way back in perspective, and then there's also kind of a curve out again. It's much smoother than this, but this is how we learn, right? There's supposed to be some sort of triangular shape here, which I'll add. See, I don't like again, like I don't know what a lot of this is, right? So it's just about trying to figure out that process for myself. And there is also, oh, this actually has some sort of like that, some sort of cutout like that. This is great because we can start practicing. Now that I've broken it down into these two parts, I'm trying to figure out, maybe it can be broken down to 3 parts instead. 3 to 4. Like we want to make it, we want to slowly make it more and more broken down for our knowledge. And I'm okay with just grinding this specific gun for a while because it has a lot of form manipulations, right? At the end of the day, I don't care about, like I'm not viewing this as like, oh, I'm trying to learn this gun. No, I'm trying to just get better at form, right? And that is going to help me with this. Became a bit too chunky, maybe? Definitely a bit too chunky. Should have made this around here instead. Yeah, that already made it better. But you see, I'm making a lot of mistakes, and I'm okay with drawing over and all that stuff. Because right now we're just trying to find the lines, and I'm losing the perspective, I'll be honest. I'm definitely losing the perspective a little bit. Right? Because that happens. And this is what forces us to think that some sort of button like this exists on the side as well, right? But we don't need to worry about all the little cutouts just yet. What we need to do is just understand the form. Okay, this actually comes out like so. Yeah, and then there's just another little, I guess, addition of a manipulator box. Like that. And there you go, we have our quote unquote, oh no, I have completely forgot the trigger. But it's coming back around here. Again, we have something like this. And it's going the other way as well, but it curves back in. And there you go. It's pretty thin. This is really good for making my lines cleaner. There you go. Ta-da. Okay. Not perfect at all, which is fine. I'm not feeling any which way about it. But okay, so that's a good way to understand the relative shapes. We already know we need a more subtle curve, right? Just in this general. That applies here, that applies here as well. What else? What are some other things we noticed? For now, I think that's the main thing. Because overall, it looks okay, but that handle is very difficult to get down. Oh, and this, actually, more subtle curve in general, but this is a pronounced curve. Okay, cool. That really was difficult. How much time has elapsed? Fucking half an hour on this bullshit? God damn it. I wish I could draw forever, because when I get interested into something, time just seems to just die. Okay, but let me rest my brain, and I encourage you to do that as well, and I'm going to try breaking this down into a couple more simpler parts, but I need to figure that out first, right? And I think this is a good size for the guns I want to draw, because this is really going to force my lines to be cleaner, which is good. So yeah, let me rest my brain. But yeah, one thing I don't want to shy away from, and I find myself naturally doing it, and I think this is normal for every single one of us, is like really putting myself in that discomfort of visualizing the grid, right? I haven't been doing that nearly as much as I want to, so let's change that. Again, it comes down to understanding this shape a bit better. So I'm going to start again with the top part, and we'll do it from a different angle. So we'll do it from this angle, right? So this is what I'm imagining. So we should see, it's actually not even an ellipse, or like the front part of a curve. I just did that to simplify it. It's much more difficult than that. Okay. Yeah, so that we can say is roughly what this is. Right, and I'm really focused at this point. It's just two things all that matter to me, I think, going forward when it comes to this stuff, is visualizing the grid. Really, that's all it comes down to, because if I don't visualize the grid, then I don't understand what I'm drawing. At least that's the way I see it, right? So that's why, like, you see, that isn't what I'm trying to do. Is something like this, but because I'm trying to draw small, it's not as pronounced, which is something I have to focus on. Right, so let me look at this area a bit more. Okay, see? So what we have here is this actually juts out a little. And you might not think that's important, but it is, because this over here is what allows something to jut out even further. Now, what is it jutting out like? Right? I need to think about that, because this is from a different perspective. If I see it from here, it's jutting outward, but it's very slight jutting outward. So that means, ooh, this is very difficult to think about, but let me think. I gotta do the calculation in my mind. Something like this, because it's down here, it's happening down here, and then it's jutting behind and then out. So what is that like? Because if I do it from the front, right, if this is the square plane from the front, what it seems like to me, it's just slightly coming out, and like this, and then, you know, there's just a bunch of lines going back, if this is 1 point perspective, right? It seems that's what it's like, probably on both sides, right? It's probably something like this. So what does that look like in this angle, where this is the top, right? Is it like, because it's coming down here, so is it, gotta think about that. Seems like it's jutting backwards too, so it's not just out, it's like it's back, so it's actually more like this. Yeah, it's coming out and slightly back, out, slightly back. So again, let's think about that. Out, slightly back. So is it more like it's out and slightly back? So is it like this? Confusion. That's all I feel right now, is absolute confusion. But did I fuck something up? I think what I fucked up is I didn't make this nearly as long over here, right? So, why don't we try again, actually? Because the shape that this is actually more like that, and then it's coming down, and this is when this thing is jutting out but back, so it's more like this. Well, obviously there's, yeah, but it's much longer. So I don't know if this is me running from my responsibilities, but the thing is, like, if you make a mistake, you might as well just try again. Right? So, is this something like this? But then again, this is way too long, I think. It's really not that long. It's more like this. Yeah, there you go. It's more like that. Right? So it's still jutting out. And this is the good part, right? Because this is what's teaching me perspective. You know? Because then it juts out like that again. Something is amiss. Which is okay. Honestly, I am completely fine with spending all this time trying to figure out all the different little angles and things that are occurring. Because that's how we learn. So that's a really good practice. Let me try that again. I think right now I'm basically just gonna be focusing. This is gonna take a while. My goal right now, let's spend literally as long as it takes, weeks, whatever, to get this gun down with all of its intricacies. Right? Should be possible. But right now I'm just gonna focus. Fuck, why'd I use the gray pen? Jesus. Oh, this is so exciting. I love drawing guns, man. They're seemingly simple, but when you start adding all the complexities, so good. Let's get focus on that with all its nuance. Right? So let's try that again. And we need to keep making sure that my line, it's the most I can zoom in right now, that my lines are thin and stable. So we need to visualize, as always, the grid to the best of our ability. There you go. It's a bit longer. That's where I was also fucking up. I wasn't making it long enough. There you go. Okay. It's like at all times I have to just simply keep forcing myself to think about the grid. Because that's how I learn, at the very least, and I believe that's how you should learn as well. Because there's a right and wrong way to learn things. You know, did you start learning to write with your fucking dick? Or did you start learning to write with your hand? Me personally, it was the peen that showed me the way of A, B, and C, but perhaps you had a different experience, which is okay. You know, I judge you for it, but it's okay. Okay, I think I'm already starting to get this down a little. So it is around here. Yeah, okay. It's just slightly back. Slightly. It's like that. Then maybe that's a bit too much as well. The question is, how does that look from the front? Oh, that's because it's just so subtle that it looks like that, I guess. Yeah. Because from this perspective, it doesn't look like much, but it's definitely a little bit. This is still probably inaccurate, to be honest, but. And then we have something like this. The reason I'm focusing so much on these little nuances of these details is because I feel as if this is what's really going to help me understand perspective a lot more, which, as we all know, is something I'm obsessed with understanding. Right? And I think that's really important. So maybe it's something like it is something like that. Is it perfect? Who knows? But I think I'm slowly starting to get it down. And then it comes back up here. Right? This probably should have been a lot longer. I think it's a double, 2 more of these would have been good. But then we brought back 2. This, which, and again, this is where this thing is, where it's back, expanding slowly outwards, like so. That's where this thing is. Something like this is the top part. Something like that. Obviously, it keeps going on the bottom, like so. My lines, my shit lines aside. Okay, I think I'm starting to understand this a bit better. This right here is the difficult part, funny enough. And this right here wasn't done properly. But that's the thing, like, it's not following the perspective. This is actually slightly above that. It's going slightly diagonally above that, right? And then this is kind of also the same, where it's slightly diagonally above that. But then we have, oh, it's actually, yeah, because then this comes down here. There you go. And then we have the other thing, which is, again, if we follow the perspective, these little divots we've been establishing, right, that's where this thing is, just that little cylinder, or not, sorry, the box, right? Okay, cool. I love how, like, none of this looks like much, but I'm learning a lot. I am learning quite a bit, my friend. But let me rest my brain. Alright, now let's try doing it from recall, because otherwise I'm never gonna learn, right? There's no point of doing any of this if I'm not actually learning it. So let's do it again over here, right? And let's actually try doing it in that perspective that I couldn't do before. So ghosting is very good because it teaches you not to just rely on visualization, obviously, but to allow yourself to actually practice the movement. But visualization is 100% a big part of it, right? So Kim Jong-gi always says, and again, I want to keep stressing the fact that it's not really about visualizing like anybody specifically, it's just visualizing how you visualize, right? What does visualizing mean? To see within your mind in a relative sense, right? Like that's technically what visualization seems to imply, is that you see it in your mind in a particular way, right? Now we're just bringing that to life. So how I see it in my mind, my particular way, is I see it partly on the page and I partly see it on my mind. I've actually gotten a lot better at seeing it more on the page, but that might just be because I'm forcing myself to do it that way. But I also still see little connections in my mind right now. Like the connection I'm about to make right now is something I see in my mind, right? And it doesn't have to be like that for you as well, but all that matters is that you are making connections. You are seeing however you see in your mind. So what happens next? We have, it comes out down here roughly, and then it juts out and back. So what I need to do now is I need to see again this perspective, juts out just a little bit. Let's just say it like this, just going back a little bit. So it's probably something like that, right? Same thing here. Now, how does that, if I just bring it down a little, this also juts out slightly to meet that. it should be in a different perspective to this, but my lines aren't that great, so it probably looks the same. And then we have, what do we have? Well, okay, let's think. And supposedly we have something where it meets, like so. And this is the catalyst to, if this is, okay, so we can just make it slightly diagonal, right? Apparently, this is really important. Well, this is something I have to learn, and I know I'm making many errors right now, but again, see, that's an error right there. I didn't even mean that line to be wrong, but, and then we have a line that is continuing that diagonalness until we go back to this, right? Okay, that seems to be what's happening, but still very confusing as to why, like what, at least in terms of the order. Okay, see, I lost the perspective there, so I'm trying to gain it back. That might be too big, actually. If I look at the reference, that's way too big. Yeah. So it needs to be even finer than that. This thing needs to be like this. Yeah, and then you move outward. That's what it needs to be like. So it's good. It's gonna teach me a lot on how to keep my lines very fine. And then, yes, we go here. And okay, I'm trying to keep that perspective in mind. Very difficult. It's super difficult to think about the grid. Right, let's not get it confused. This is something really, really, really hard. But it doesn't mean it's not doable, right? And then we have, again, if the perspective's like this, we have something sort of creating that sort of effect. Okay, so that's kind of what I understand right now in terms of this top part. How much time has passed? 50 minutes? Jesus fucking Christ. It's getting slightly better, I think. There's just some relations here that I have to figure out, which I can practice right now. But let me rest my brain. This is already extremely informative, because even if I don't know how to draw this gun, I already kind of understand that this type of shape can exist and does exist in a gun, right? As well as something like, you know, it jutting out and having something like this, and then having something like this. Like, just knowing that this can and does exist, and then knowing I can kind of already start to move along on that sort of level is insanely helpful. Because now it's already kind of feeling more gun-like to me. Just because I know that this type of thing exists, right? And that's not even adding my other random made-up shit, like, okay, what if I were to quote-unquote add some sort of scope thing, right? And then again, like these random shapes, which I don't really understand, but I know exist. See, already quote-unquote gun-like, right? Even though that makes zero sense, it shouldn't have even been attached like that. But either way, just knowing this type of thing exists is very helpful. Just the fact that these sort of little jut outs happen. But let's actually, because what I've been doing as of now is I've literally been drawing this gun in every angle but the reference angle to obviously practice my spatial reasoning. But to reinforce my understanding, let's look at what's actually happening by looking at the reference, right? So it's like this. Okay. I guess this is actually at an angle, funny enough. And then it comes down. And then we'll just cut it off here. So actually, that's something new as well that we've learned. And it's going to make my spatial reasoning even more difficult, but much more worthwhile. Because now we just realized it's at an angle here. So this is actually at an angle as well. Right? And I'm still not drawing this exactly in the provided perspective, because it's going to make it more difficult, right? And what I just realized again is that this thing's actually like there's a cylinder jutting out of this, and this is kind of just going around that, and then this is another little scope thing. I don't think that's important right now. We can keep it as it is, right? That's gonna make it a bit too convoluted. So now what's happening here, because it's halfway. So okay, so because I know that it's halfway, we actually have to make this longer, because actually it's a bit less than halfway. It's right where this little angle happens, right? So now what's happening? It is, if I were to look at this head on and it wasn't angled, it would probably be something like this, but it's not, because it's pretty far back. So it's probably something like that, right? That's where it's jutting out. And this, it comes out a little, is coming out to meet that, because this comes down now. So it's coming out to meet that. There you go. That makes a lot of sense. So it's something, if we were to look at it head on, would be something like this. Something like this, right? If it's happening at the angle, right, yeah, it'd be something like that. On both sides. There you go. I should have made it more even, but yeah. But yeah, it's sort of something jutting out, right? And then you have blah blah blah, all these things happening. It's the way I seem to see it, right? So then this is obviously in the same perspective, but now we have something happening where it's going straight. And then this is now cutting slightly diagonally across. And then we have this thing where it's super diagonal, right? But still, right, cutting slightly diagonally across, just like that. And there you go. That makes a lot of sense. This is like a little indent that's occurring. There you go. That makes a little bit more sense now. And these lines that I've been drawing are actually something that's three-dimensional. It's more like this. This is going to be great for line practice, actually. But I don't think this juts out as much as I've been making it jut out, to be honest. It's probably even more, less. It's probably something like this, right? Just a very slight jut out. Yeah, it's probably something like that. Yeah, so it's probably something like this, where something like that, maybe. Still trying to figure it out. But I don't think it's as intense as I'm assuming it is. But this is helping a lot. This is actually helping a lot, right? So if I were to just draw, because this actually, funny enough, this sets the precedent for the entirety of this entire top part, because that's the angles, the shapes, how everything cuts out is based off of this, right? So again, I'm going to spend as long as I need to get this gun down. Then this isn't as much of a fucking headache as the scooters are. But even then, the scooters I got down pretty decently, right? At least like in terms of progress and understanding it. So the main thing, I think the main thing I keep shying away from is to see that grid, right? So we need to see that grid. And again, we need to make our lines very fine, right? So I just need to figure out, okay, this is just jutting normally back. So like, it's, I guess if I were to make my own little interpretation, I guess it's actually jutting outward, which is also going to be great for understanding form. So I'm literally forcing myself to see it, see the grid lines, right? Yeah, it's jutting outwards. Let's just make that distinction. This is how we understand things, right? And keep seeing the grid as much as I need to. Although this is too big. This ellipse should stop roughly a bit past this right here, this diagonal. Okay, so now what do we have? It's jutting outward, right? Jutting outward, like so, and then behind a little bit. So something like that. This is coming to meet it, but only a little bit. Yeah, see? Just very slightly. And then we have, what is it? Okay, let's try to think, because we need to understand what's happening here, right? I need to understand what's happening here. So let me try using language to explain that to myself. This is where thinking very much so becomes a huge part of this. Oh, okay, so this already helps a lot, just knowing that that exists. And then we have, perhaps, it's going in the opposite direction, so something like that. And again, perhaps we'll just make it 4 for now, because there's many more than that. Actually, no, it's important to keep it. Let's do 5, 6, right? Proportion is something I'll work on as I continue to do this. But okay. And yeah, it's like jutting in a little bit, and then we have it's going outward, right? What is happening there? Or at least this is helping me with my lines. Just need to understand the form that's occurring, which is, oh well, it's all jutting out through here, so I actually should have made it more angled. But then this comes in and continues that for a little bit. Definitely should have given more space. My spatial reasoning when it comes to fucking spacing my drawings out clearly needs work. Oh. But I can just do something like, just keep going, right? And what is happening here? This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, it's something like this. I'm trying to think. Oh, it's this. So this is where the shadow should be. So I made these too far apart and too wide, but yeah, something like that. These little divots or thingies that are cutting out. Right, and then this. Obviously comes back out here. And then we are following this again. Oh yeah, and obviously I need to... Oh wait, no, that was an accident. Yeah, this is the front part. Okay, well, I'm learning. I just need to stop spacing things out so drastically. And this is good line practice too, right? This probably doesn't look like much to anybody watching, but I've already learned a decent amount, I'd like to think. Right? Again, these little divots they're going against... Yeah, they're going... No, they're going with. Yeah, they're going with the perspective a little bit. So it's this. It's just obviously angled a bit more, right? Yeah, that makes sense. And obviously, something like that. Right. That's basically what it is. And then, you know, the bottom is in perspective. This obviously needs to be in perspective as well. I get it. I'm starting to get it now. I'm starting to understand how it relates to everything around it. But yeah, it's just all yeah, it's starting to make a bit more sense now. I think the biggest issue right now is my lines just need to be a bit better. But yeah, I guess obviously I could have put that here too, where you see... Yeah, like that's basically where it is happening in the smaller version that I did. But this is good. This is good. I'm gonna keep practicing this, keep trying to understand this, right? I want to hopefully get the top part down today. Probably won't happen because I always overestimate how much I can accomplish within a specific day. But just practicing like this right here, the fuckery that's happening here is a great practice because again, it forces me to think about the grid, think about the very subtle diagonals that occur. Right, make this even longer. Bring it out like so, and then what happens? Then we have it's jutting out slightly, right? Yeah, just jutting out a little bit slightly. Obviously trying to keep it in perspective. I'm just gonna draw this one more time, at least the front part, because that front part really is what dictates a lot of the perspective. And this is why I need to keep the grid constantly in my mind. And I know this is that perspective that I constantly do, so I'll obviously try it in a different one after, later today. But this is the difficult part, right? So if we just bring it back, then we have to jut it out, bring it back again. It's not as intense. See, it's just a little bit. It's the tiniest little jut out. There you go. This is a lot better, I think, in terms of proportioning it. And then when we bring this outwards, we have, okay, I see, this. There you go. Yeah, it's going this way. So something like this. Right. It's just starting to understand a little. And why don't we just, for the sake of clarity, for the time being, do something like that. And what else is happening? Then it's just there you go, and then we just follow the perspective. This is amazing for actually building clean lines, like even more artistically fucking focus on thin lines. Okay, because then it goes on for a little bit. Right, let's just end it here. Right, but it doesn't end there, because we can just continue onwards just for a little bit. Bring this out, but follow the actual perspective. And then, yeah, this one kind of just reinforces what we already know. And it goes out again, right? Actually, I think this should be longer. This is too small, so I gotta figure out the proportions for this a little. Yeah, see? And then we just have to and it's this one here, I guess. Ta-da! The top part of the gun. Something like that. It's something like this. This needs to be longer, maybe. Not maybe, definitely. So that means I have to start it a little bit. Something about this I didn't do right, because this should have been much longer. Oh, I should have just brought this up higher. Yeah, it should have been something like that. But that's just related to this little jut out thing here, right? Yeah, we're not seeing it from that side because this is going backwards, right? We're not really. Maybe a little bit we're seeing it. Yeah, see? It's like the tiniest little bit. But then of course we have this. There you go, something like that, right? Slowly starting to get it down. But obviously the main thing is really seeing the perspective, really understanding the different additions. These are basically little additions that are happening, right? Little additions and subtractions. and in terms of form, right? Little additions and subtractions, and making it smaller, making this a lot smaller, but making the lines very clean as well. Like I don't want it to be this big. I want it to be like this, which means my lines have to be fucking near perfect, which is a great metric to work towards, right? Because this means I can just really focus on making my lines as quote unquote perfect or thin or whatever as I want. But yeah, it's been long enough. I'm going to, oh fuck me. No, I caught it this time. Oh my god. I'm fucking dropping my pen. But yeah, I hope this was helpful or informative. Again, the gun is a C22, right? Just type in C22 gun. You'll see a fucking 3/4 view of it. It's beige. There's many different views. I just chose this one because I felt as if it gave me the most amount of information. But yeah, that was fuck, man. There's so many cool little things. If I fucking just artistically focus on understanding all the slight little subtractions and additions occurring within this gun, and then be able to make it roughly this size with my line work, that's a huge level up. So I'm definitely going to spend a lot of time on this, and I think this will transfer back to the crazy scooters very well as well, right? But I'll be honest, I'm more interested in doing the gun and this sort of practice, even though the same concept applies to crazy scooters. I think it's just a little bit of fatigue with crazy scooters because scooters are so fucking difficult. But if I can start to understand this, hopefully it'll get easier with understanding that. But yeah, I hope this was enjoyable to draw along to. You learned something, you felt something up. And yeah, like, subscribe, all that shit. None of you fucking do it anyways. My channel is dying, so that's what it is. I mean, it'll pop off, hopefully, one day, most likely, when I'm much better at art, right? So yes, with that being said, as always, fuck you for watching, keep drawing, and please give me money. I'll thank you.